Are you thinking about choosing a sperm donor and wondering, how do I find the right one? Well, if you are, you're in the right place. My name is Corlandos Scott, and I'm an assisted reproduction attorney in Los Angeles, and I built my entire practice around helping people grow their family through assisted reproductive technologies. Wow, that's a mouthful. But things like sperm donation. Let's get right into it. If you've been with me before, you may have seen me talk about how to choose an egg donor. Well, choosing a sperm donor is pretty much like choosing an egg donor, but with some differences, because after all, we are talking about that X chromosome. Yeah, we guys we're different. So in this video, we'll cover just that. We'll talk about working with a sperm bank versus working with a fresh donation. We'll explore sperm donors' rights, and we'll talk about how location matters. Let's jump right into it. Of the types of assisted reproductive technologies, sperm donation is probably one of the oldest and most recognizable ones. Ironically enough, sperm donation is actually on the rise again. This is due to a couple of things. It's due to states allowing sperm donors to be anonymous, and it's also due to advancements in medicine. As the science in medicine improves, people have more options. But let's talk about the differences in sperm donations. Most people familiar with sperm donation usually think about sperm banks. Sperm banks are places where sperm donors are pre-screened, qualified, and they make a donation to the bank that's held in cryopreservation. Much like an egg donation, sperm banks typically have categories of qualifications. So there's going to be age qualifications, there's going to be medical qualifications, hopefully psychological qualifications for these donors to be rightful candidates to donate. Now, when a sperm donor is donating to a bank, usually it's for a nominal fee. There is some type of compensation, but it doesn't at all reflect the type of compensation that egg donors get. Most time, egg banks categorize the compensation really as reimbursements. However, there are times when you can choose to go outside of the sperm bank system. In these instances, the process is very similar to egg donation. Sometimes, hopeful parents are matched with sperm donors through what we call agencies. This can also be facilitated through fertility clinics and sometimes even sperm banks themselves. The agency process for sperm donation differs a bit from the clinic or the sperm bank situation. One of the big differences is you want to make sure that when you're matched with a specific sperm donor who has not yet made the donation for you, as opposed to have already left the sperm at the bank, you want to make sure that there is a contract between you and that individual. This is one big way that it is different in an agency arrangement or a sperm bank arrangement. With a sperm bank, usually you typically only sign the consent forms with the sperm bank rather than entering into a legal agreement with the person who left deposit at the bank, maybe days, weeks, months, or even years in the past. When you're working with that agency, you want to make sure you address the same things in the sperm donor contract that you would address in any other type of assisted reproduction contract, especially that of an egg donor. You have to ask the question, will the donor be a known donor or an unknown donor? In unknown donations, there are different requirements from the FDA and guidelines from the ASRM than there are in known donations. So make sure that if you're working with a known donor or an anonymous donor, that you address that in the contract. That's why it's so important that when you're going through this process, you have a knowledgeable team around you that knows exactly what should be in your documents and exactly how you should handle the process so that you don't run into any blind spots or any unexpected issues in your donation journey. Before I cover the next topic, if you're watching this video, you may be interested in other parts of the assisted reproduction world. So click the button below, subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure you hit the bell so you get alerts whenever I release new videos, and you can be up to speed on the entire process. And while we're talking about known versus unknown or known versus anonymous donations, let me say this. There's a huge difference between what you and the donor agree to and what's available in the world. What do I mean by that? Well, you may agree with your donor, and your donor may agree with you, and you may even memorialize in the contract that you won't try to learn their legal identity, and they will not try to learn yours. You may agree to be anonymous to one another. However, that does not preclude the donor from going and doing one of the popular services like Ancestry.com or 23andMe, any of these DNA services that allow you to explore your ethnic heritage. And if your child in the future were to do one of those tests and engage in one of those services as well, it's possible that that company could connect the two. Be very careful and understand what we mean by anonymity. The anonymity in your donor contract doesn't control 23andMe or Ancestry.com or any of the other DNA services that exist. Well, here's a question that people ask on the sperm donor side, just like they ask on the egg donor side. Do sperm donors have parental rights? Well, here's the thing I want to make sure you understand. Whatever you do, address it in a contract. Make sure that there's a legally binding agreement between you and your donor, and make sure that that's allowed in whatever state you're entering into it. So, for instance, in California, there are laws on the book that allow sperm donation, and those laws say that when a sperm donor donates under certain criteria, like to a licensed medical facility, that if there's a contract in place, he is not deemed the father of those children that result from the donation. So make sure that you understand the law in the state that you're in, and that you draft a contract between you and the donor that states exactly what the intention of the parties are. I've had clients that come to me and say, I have a person who I was once in a relationship with who I want to be my sperm donor. And I say, okay, great. We can do that. We can make that arrangement. And then halfway through the process, they say, but Corlandos, I may want them to be the father in the future. And I have to say, well, let's make sure that we're very clear on the line. We don't want to blur the line. Either this is a donation or this is a potential parent. Now, that doesn't mean in the future there couldn't be a legal way for the donor to become a parent through second parent adoption or something like that. But we never want to blur the lines between a donation and parenthood. So make sure if you're going through the donation process, you get the help of a professional who can help you walk through that process. The last thing I'll say is do your due diligence. I know that a lot of people want to save cost as much as possible, and I've had no fewer than a dozen horror stories call my office or walk into my office where they did what they called a home insemination and things went wrong. Now, maybe not medically, but they went wrong legally. They did a home insemination and they broke up, and now somebody's being considered the father of a child. They did a home insemination and then they found out that they weren't the rightful parent. There are so many ways that things can go wrong. And of all the areas of your life, you don't want to leave your parenthood and the rightful parenthood of your child up for grabs. So make sure that however you're doing the sperm donation process, you get some assistance and you seek the help of professionals. If you're exploring sperm donation, you may also be considering some other parts of assisted reproduction like surrogacy. If you're considering surrogacy, you're in luck because I have something for you. I call it my 3 T's of successful surrogacy framework. In that 3T framework, I lay out the 3 most important parts of the surrogacy process that allow you to do it without losing sleep, time, or money. If you want to get your hands on that framework, you can do it for free. Just click the link below and get it.